Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Upgrades. I'm Jeremy Knoll, and filling in for Jonathan Suarez this time, we have Stephen Green. Stephen is joining me today because he has read all of the Lord of the Rings books.
Couple times.
Yeah. So you're pretty familiar with what we've got going on here. All right. So today, starting off, we are going to kick off with the Hosts of Mordor deck. And like usual, we're going to go over a couple of the cards that are in the deck. We're going to go over 5 cards to add to the deck that are under $5 or pretty close, you'll see. And also, we are going to be showing a couple of cards we suggest taking out of the deck to kind of help improve it a little bit. So, to kick us off, Hosts of Mordor is headed up by Sauron, Lord of the Rings. Now, this is the big bad of the entire series. This is 5 blue, black, red, 9/9, legendary creature, avatar horror. When you cast the spell, amass Orcs 5, mill 5 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It has trample, and whenever a commander an opponent controls dies, the ring tempts you.
You just said it didn't have to resolve.
No, it's just cast.
It's a cast trigger.
It's just a cast trigger. It's wild.
You have to get something for 8 mana, so
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, we're not playing like 8 mana vanilla 7/7s from Legends
It's
anymore.
Definitely not, but 8 mana is a lot of mana for a commander.
It is a lot of mana.
Yeah.
So it's got to have a lot going on. And so this has got a cast ability with a bunch of stuff, and it has trample, and it lets the ring tempt you whenever a commander an opponent controls dies. That's real good. So our secondary commander is going to be Saruman, the White Hand.
Yes, which is 1 and 1 of each Grixis, so 4 mana, for a 2/5 Avatar Wizard. And it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, amass Orcs X, where X is that spell's mana value. It also says that goblins and orcs you control have Ward 2.
Yep, Ward 2.
I think that's probably pretty powerful in the deck. There's a lot of amass going on in there, which makes sense because they make all the orcs.
They do.
They have hosts of them.
I was going to ask how you feel about these working flavor-wise.
You know what? I'm fine. I'm fine with it. Saruman is secretly working for Sauron, and you don't really know until you know. So I'm fine with it.
Spoilers.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, I'm going to spoil a lot.
or read the books. Yeah, it's been... there's a lot going on here. So, looking at a few of the new cards, there are 27 new cards in this deck.
Cards.
We've went over the Warhammer 40,000 decks, which had quite a few. We've gone over a couple other decks that have had like many new cards. This one, 27 new cards. Over 25% of the deck is new, and that's really wild. So we're gonna go over 5 new ones that are in this deck. The first one I want to give to you.
Is the Balrog of Mordor. It is 4 black, black, red for an 8/8 Avatar Demon with Trample Haste. And it says, when the Balrog of Mordor dies, you may exile it. When you do, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target creature that players controls. And it's not done. We got more, okay? You can cycle this for 3 colors and a red. When you cycle the Balrog of Mordor, you get 2 treasure tokens. Now, this card works particularly well with Sauron.
Yeah.
Because at 4, you went up 2 mana to get to your 8, and you're going to get to put the Balrog right into play.
Yeah.
Just off your cast trigger.
Yeah. And I think this one will work well outside of this precon in any sort of reanimator deck with black-red. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
It putting itself in the graveyard, that's really big. I think the best part about this card is that thematically, you get it, right? Like you've seen it. He pulls Gandalf down with him. So they really followed through with that. I think this is a very strong card out of the deck. Basically, manning yourself up and putting your card in the graveyard to reanimate it. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Our next one, I know you have some opinions on some of the dragons that are in this deck, but Cavern Horde Dragon is our next one we're going to talk about. 7 red, so 9 total, 6/6. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest number of artifacts an opponent's controls. And it has Flying Trample Haste, and whenever Cavern Horde Dragon deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token for each artifact that player controls. That's pretty gross.
Look, thematically, I would remove this from the deck.
Yeah.
This deck is expensive because of this card. This would be one of the best cards they put in all the decks. Very powerful dragon. There are no dragons in Lord of the Rings. By the time we get to this, the dragons are gone.
By the time we get to Lord of the Rings proper.
Yeah, the dragons are
there's
gone.
There's the Hobbit.
There may be some dragons off in the distance.
Yeah.
We don't know about them.
But they're not in the main trilogy story.
After the Hobbit,
which is
dragonless.
Which is what these decks and the whole set is based on. It's based on the trilogy.
Yeah.
The Tales of Middle-earth is just supposed to be the trilogy. It doesn't include the Hobbit, doesn't include the Silmarillion, doesn't include any of that stuff.
That's true. Now, this dragon is going to be good.
Yeah.
Because it's a little mini Dockside.
Yeah. Can you imagine somebody else casting Dockside, getting all those treasures,
and then you didn't
and then you just like, okay, now I have a 6/6 flying trample haste for 2 red. That also is going to fly in and get me a bunch of extra treasures.
Yeah, it might not get any extra treasures, but you're taking 6.
Yeah. Because they're probably going to sack all those. But that's just wild thinking about that. The next one is Relic of Sauron. It's a 4 mana artifact. Tap to add 2 mana in any combination of blue, black, and or red. Pay 3, tap it, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. So this one's pretty solid. A lot of people have been kind of arguing a little bit about, mana rocks that are a little bit more expensive. Anything more than 1 or 2 are they worth to play? And it's like,
I've played Sisay's Ring before.
Yeah.
This is Sisay's Ring, but like way better. This is the mythic rare version of Sisay's Ring.
Some way better upside, right?
Well, it gives you colored mana.
Yeah,
which is
in any combination of those.
Yeah, so you get colored. 2 blue, 2 black, a red and a black. You get to choose
whatever.
Also, the second ability, just card selection on your mana rock when you don't have to sacrifice the mana rock.
Yeah,
that's very powerful. Now, it does cost 4. It doesn't come into play tapped, but maybe that like gets people off of it because it's 4 mana.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was playing an artifact centric deck in Grixis, this would probably make the cut.
Yeah. Not coming into play tapped is a big one. Paying 3 for that second ability is a little, but still being able to do that whenever you need to is really good. So, our next one
is the Summons of Saruman, which is sorcery for blue-red X. And it says, amass Orcs X, mill X cards, and you may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value X or less from among them without paying its mana cost. It also has Flashback, which is basically exile X cards from your graveyard to cast a flashback cost.
Yep.
Powerful card.
Yeah.
You may not have watched our video, but we got to see this cast in our game. And it was quite strong. I think if you were playing towards this card, there's a bunch of crazy stuff you could do because you're gonna get one big creature, and then some crazy spell if you set your deck up right. So
I mean, I love the randomness of stuff like Epic Experiment, stuff like that, where it's just like go look for a random big sorcery and cast it free. So
also, it appears to be, and I can't. Really, it appears to be the scene everyone's familiar with, maybe from the movies, where he's basically baking orcs in the ground. I believe that's what this is supposed to be alluding to. That he's making the orcs, and that's what this is from. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, part of the reason I included it. I like anything that ties in with like the movie that you visually see. I like that.
Yeah. And then our last one is a new land, the Black Gate. It's a legendary land gate. It's a new gate for the gate decks. As the Black Gate enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add a black, or 1 and a black, tap it, choose a player with the most life or tied for the most life. Target creature can't be blocked by creatures that player controls this turn, which is wild.
Thematically, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'll be up front. Frodo and them, they go past the Black Gate. They don't go through that one.
So, like, that's...
They're like, no. Yeah, we can't be blocked, but it's going to be because we went around.
They didn't pull the Wizard of Oz trick where they just mugged a couple of guards and just like marched right in. They're like, we're going to skip that.
They decided to avoid this. Now, I included this because it's like you said, it's a gate. So it's a new gate for gate decks, and it has a very unique ability because this lets you do it to your opponent's creatures.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
Yeah, so I could be like, oh, that creature is unblockable to you.
Yeah.
So, I like that.
Yeah. Target creature can't be blocked by creatures that player controls this turn. It's pretty interesting because, it doesn't include yourself. So, All right, so here are a couple of cards that we would suggest adding to the deck that are under $5-ish, kind of keeping it into a budget. This one, I know that you were looking at this one a little bit more for add-ins, and it was mostly just wanting to keep on theme more than anything.
The reality of the situation is with what your commander does with this deck, what you likely want to change out is what big creatures you're getting access to. because as it turns out, they included dragons, one Balrog, and that's like the big creatures that you want to reanimate with the commander. You could do better though than what they included. So the cards I kind of chose just went with the orc avenue. Since there's a lot of amass cards in there, I kind of just flowed back into that because, you know, I want Sauron to have a lot of armies.
Yeah.
And I want him to come for Gondor. So
makes sense. Yeah. So our first one in here
is Barador. I probably mispronounced that, but it's okay. It's a legendary land, and it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary creature. It adds a black, and then for XX black, you can tap it and amass Orcs X. Activate this only if a creature died this turn.
Which is pretty easy.
It will be pretty easy.
In a black-red base deck with some blue in there as well. But yeah, that one will be pretty easy. I like that one quite a bit. I think it's gonna see a decent amount of play in sacrifice-based decks pretty easily.
I think that'd be a really good deck in a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Or a card in deck in sacrifice. Yeah.
Our next one is Marauder Urukai Captain. You were waiting for me to just pronounce that. And that is a black and a red legendary creature, Orc Soldier 2/2, has menace, and if one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on an army, goblin, or orc you control, that many +1/+1/+1 counters are put on it instead. So you just get to add an extra one on
for every instance where you would amass.
Yeah, you're amassing.
Now, it does work for all of them, which I thought was good. It gets the armies, it gets the orcs, and
it does say army. Which is nice because like this one introduced amass orcs, which is specific to this set, and so it creates the orc token and it puts the counters on there. But there's already amass with zombies, and because this says army specifically, so if you have this in a zombie-based deck that has an amass,
maybe you turn your orcs into zombies.
Yeah. There's a lot going on there that you can kind of mess around with that because it doesn't specifically say army orc or whatever. It says army goblin or orc.
Also, Saruman's in the deck. So I felt good to put his captain in the deck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Our next one is
Moria Marauder, which is a red 1/1 goblin warrior. It has double strike, and it says whenever a goblin or orc you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may cast this card this turn.
You may play that card this turn.
Oh, you may play this card.
Yeah, so you can grab your lands.
Yeah, and you know how I like to.
You like to cast your lands. Yeah.
I included this. I just thought it was on theme with all the other like orc goblin stuff we got going on.
Yeah.
I will admit, I believe this card is like $1 more than the $5 mark right now.
Yeah.
But this is, maybe it goes down a little bit. Maybe we get in the $5 mark.
Yeah.
Give it a week or two.
Yeah, we're filming this pretty early, and so the prices may fluctuate a little bit, especially the cards that are in the set itself. But yeah, this one's interesting. Playing off the top of your deck is always kind of fun, and being able to and giving a double strike, maybe putting on some equipment and stuff like that on there is a lot of fun to be able to get that maybe more than once.
Well, if 3 creatures still damage,
exactly,
you get 3 instances of it. So.
And this with double strike, it's can double it up. So pretty sweet. Our next one is Assault on OS Goliath, which is X, red, sorcery, amass orcs X, then goblins and orcs you control gain double strike and haste until end of turn. That's sweet.
Yeah, I personally think that this should have just been in the deck. I didn't need to add this because this is a set card. This one should have just been in there.
That's one of the things that like John and I always talk about in upgrades is they always seem to seed the deck so that there's like a card or a couple cards in the main set that you're always like, why wasn't that in the...
That's what I thought. I mean, the 4 of this cards on the list were
very easy add-ins
from the set. Yeah. That's where I went to.
Yeah, so. Very easy add-ins.
I think that card is powerful in this deck. Mm-hmm. I think if you're playing a Goblins deck, this card is just going to be powerful because
double strike and
haste and double strike is powerful.
Yeah. Just being able to like red, haste double strike is good. So
now this next card, you may all be surprised. It's Vandal Blast. It is 1 red, destroy target artifact you don't control, and you can overload it for 5. As I come to discover, there was no artifact removal in the deck. They gave you no artifact removal in the precon.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have done that. I think I would have put a shatter in there at least. But
we talked a little bit about this beforehand while we were looking at the decks, and it is kind of odd that it's like each of the decks only seems to have like maybe 1 card
It is really strange.
That destroys like artifacts or enchantments specifically.
Yeah.
There's some creature removal, but yeah, specifically like artifacts and enchantments. And if you did watch our Commander Versus episode where we played these decks, you know that Steven got out an enchantment that really just
and as it turns
helped
out,
end the game.
No one could have touched it, and I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
But after I really looked through the decks, I do find it odd that they didn't include that. I think a big part of Commander is always that your opponent is going to have enchantments and artifacts. It really doesn't matter what deck they bring to the table. And there are plenty of artifacts and enchantments throughout these decks.
Yeah.
That type of thing should have been included, because there's some particularly strong ones that we're going to want to interact with.
Each of the decks, I'm pretty sure, has like minimum 10 artifacts and enchantments combined. And most of them, and like a couple of them, I think the Food and Fellowship deck had like a decent amount. That one had like 14. Riders of Rohan had a lot. Yeah, that one has 12 artifacts and 6 enchantments. So
no way to touch them.
Yeah, there's like one card in each deck that can actually take care of those. So it's a little odd, but adding in a little bit more artifact and enchantment removal would go a long way in all of these decks. So moving on to cards that we would suggest taking out. So there's a few of them. You talked about this already. But.
The first 2 cards are dragons. I chose dragons. Now, I did that because, like I said, I believe you can do better than generic dragon as the cards you want to reanimate. Also,
the dragons that you're talking about here. First of all, we've got Null Spine Dragon, which is okay.
It's just fine.
That's fine.
The next dragon is better.
The next dragon is much better, and I'm happy that it got a reprint. It's Scourge of the Throne.
Yep.
And before it had been reprinted, I think it was reprinted at least once more before this. But before that, when it was just a conspiracy card, it was
expensive.
It was an expensive card.
I'm not saying it's not a good reprint. Thematically,
I understand.
There are no dragons. So to me, I would immediately take out all 3 dragons, but the cave dragon is so good that I'm not gonna fault you for keeping that dragon in.
Yeah.
But basically, we got Null Spawn Dragon and Scourge of the Throne. Those are the first 2 I would cut, and it is a large part because I don't believe, from what I know of Lord of the Rings, at that time there were any dragons, and so it just didn't fit with me. I would prefer to go find some random demons or some horror or something, because there's a lot spoken about how like Sauron has all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and we don't really get to see it all. But I would prefer something else in that spot over the dragons. Yeah,
no, I get it. Thematically, if you're trying to stay on the theme of the deck, keep it the Lord of the Rings themed. Taking these out probably works. And if you're trying to improve the deck just from standpoint of I really want Sauron and big dumb creatures or whatever, you can take these out. They're like okay, like we said, Null Spine Dragon is just fine.
Scourge of the Throne's
good, but you probably could throw some other demons or big scary creatures in there.
Black specifically has when it comes to demons, they've got a lot of things you could be reanimating instead. So
a lot more stuff that's like ETB and just all sorts of nonsense. So our next one is Shiny Impetus. It's enchantment aura. An enchants a creature. That creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. And whenever that creature is attacks, you create a treasure token. These have been around for a long while.
I think they just need to reprint it. I'm not sure about this. The art's cool because it's got Gollum on it.
Yeah.
I don't know how this fit into the deck very well. It seems very out of place. It's an aura you put on, it gives you treasure. Maybe they did that because the commander costs 8 and they're looking at ways to give you some mana.
It's like not only is it giving you mana, it's also making sure that troublesome creature isn't attacking you while you build up to Sauron.
I get it.
Because you got a bunch of stuff.
I felt Shiny Impetus was out of place, so I chose that.
I can understand that.
Yeah. Now, it hurt me. Yeah. It hurt me to choose the next one. And I have Siege Gang Commander on there.
That's rough.
Siege Gang Commander is a great card. Again, we're back to this. I feel like you can do better at 5 mana. You could just do better than that card. Also, orcs aren't goblins. So those amasses you're getting, you can't throw those.
Yeah, that's true. You can't just toss those.
Now, if they were all goblins, there's no way. Like being able to throw your amass, that would just be too good. So I just cut that one, and it seemed like a low-hanging fruit for me. I was like, it's a good card, but it's just a random goblin.
It's just a goblin. It's a good goblin. It's one of the better goblins, but still, it's just a goblin compared to if you wanted the orcs and stuff. And the last one is Boon of the Wishgiver. draw 4 cards for 6 mana at sorcery speed and cycles for 1.
Look, what it's got going for it, the art's cool, flavor text is cool.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But that card's not good.
Yeah. Card is fine in a cycling deck.
That's what I would say. If your goal was to cycle, it's going to be a fine card. Yeah. We can do better at 6 mana to draw cards.
Yes.
In a plethora of ways.
Yeah, there's a lot better ways to draw cards. So yeah, probably get that one out of there. There's not really much you would want to do with this in this deck, I don't think. But yeah, so that is our upgrades of the Hosts of Mordor deck from The Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth. Let us know what kind of cards you would put into the deck in the comments below and what cards you would take out. And also, if you'd like to challenge Steven to a Tolkien off.
No dragons.
No dragons. If you would play this deck as a thematic deck, as we've kind of built it here, or if you really just want to try and get Sauron as good as you possibly can.
They would lean into dragons. Someone's going to show up and it's just Sauron and all dragons.
Sit down with you at a command fest and be like, hey, check it out.
Check it out. Dragons. I have a dragon Sauron deck. And I'm going to be like, I'm going to get up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just going to be like,
cool. They're going to be playing 3 players. Congrats. I'm going to trick them into starting the game, and then on turn 5, I'm leaving.
That's one way to do things, I guess. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that bell to get notified of new episodes, and we will see you next time.